They say accidents are often the most exciting thing, and that's definitely the case when we were in the studio that evening with Oasis. The flash was all set up, and Noel sat with his guitar, happily sort of in a world of his own. The flash goes off and you've got this kind of ghosting effect where Liam and Bonehead are strangely fading into the distance, and Noel sits in the middle of it all just laughing. When we showed this 20 years later, somebody made the point that it's the most autobiographical photo of Oasis now, where you've got this solo singer in pure vision and everything else is slowly fading away around him. He's kind of leader of the pack, isn't he? The story begins in the suburbs, Stockport, South Manchester, with very few aspirations apart from to be in a band. Incredibly important, the Ramones' first album cover. But it wasn't just the record that was important, it was the cover. The four of them stood against a brick wall. The thing is about the Ramones' brick wall, it could be anywhere. It doesn't really matter whether the brick wall's outside of New York City or just outside of Manchester. Anyone could be a Ramone. We formed a group above a cake shop on West Street in Sheffield, and we called it World of Twist. This early version, I was the lead singer, Tony was on drums and Gordon played the guitar. I'd started working for a photographer in Sheffield. I'd done some pictures of a band called Clock DVA, which Nick had joined, Nick Sanderson, who would later join World of Twist. The London thing started to happen for me, and it was an opportunity to sort of take photos of bands. I suppose ultimately chase that Ramones idea that had started back in Stockport. Gordon and Tony moved to Manchester, where I think the Stone Roses and Happy Mondays had really kicked in, and to go and visit Manchester now was a truly exciting experience again. Gordon and Tony resurrected the World of Twist idea to much better effect. As soon as they had a gig, I was down there with my camera. So when the time came for the band to select a photographer to cover Quality Street, which would be their debut and ultimately only album, as true testament to our friendship, they took a rookie on like me, everyone dressed up as characters off the Quality Street tin, and away we went. It would go on, that record sleeve would go on to be considered in the independent newspaper as the worst record cover of that year when it came out. Looking back at this picture, there's that Who reference for sure, but more importantly, this is where it's that getting it wrong, it's that lack of cool, which sort of cancels itself out, and it probably ends up being the coolest photo I've ever taken. But the band fell apart like all great bands do. I'm in London, shooting away, doing my own thing, and I get this call from somebody who got my number from Creation Records. There's this band in Manchester that love the World of Twist pictures. The manager had been asked to find the guy who took these photos. The band is Oasis. I get a cassette dropped round at my place, which would ultimately become Definitely Maybe. I'm introduced to the band, and Liam goes, "What are you drinking?" And I said, "I'll have a pint of lager, please." And 2 minutes later he comes back with a Jack Daniels. He looks at me and goes, "You drink Jack Daniels when you're with us." It was like they'd read the manual on how to be in a brilliant group. And I know there's cliches, there was a kind of corniness to it all, like wearing dark glasses at night, leather jackets. We're talking about the Ramones again really, aren't we? And we all regrouped about midday the next day in central Manchester and did these shots around Ducey Street, and it was very much me following them and letting them get on with it. I was aware obviously who the singer was and who the lead guitarist was, if you like, but there certainly wasn't this Noel and Liam show thing that would happen a lot later. This was about 5 people cutting around Manchester. They all got on really well, they were good mates, and they kind of had a laugh. It's fair to say that Oasis were going to be quite a good group. Nobody saw that one coming, that they would be so fucking massive. The beauty of it all is that they're from Stockport like me, and I love the fact that they took on the world and they won it. It's mad to think Beady Eye did a version of Sons of the Stage, probably one of World of Twist's best tunes. I read somewhere that Noel Gallagher was going to call Oasis Sons of the Stage because they love that song so much. When you're young, you're willing to try things, you're willing to fail, and maybe that's what being a son of the stage is really all about.